out of payloads. Mufasa, host far scared if I say so. No problems, me or my brother don't play those. Pill poppers, trying to run the game into an overdose. Dark science on test that lost 3 homies. Compliance, only set that under no code. Can't take a head off at 100 yards with no scope. Step aside my 25, you stepping out with no though. Brewing up a whole pot of coffee mixed with the honey and the cocoa. In my dream, steady stacking dollars, wake up and count and go get mo. I was 15 with a dream, 4 or 5 bitches calling my flip phone. Been the crop of the cream, ain't what it seems, nigga, I been cold. Better go check them symbols. Can't tell that it's kanji hero, got the studies, won't do shit for you. People said you try to cipher workers on my mind, let me leave a hint for you. Whether it's on the keyboard, business, or the streets, bitch, I've been thugging. People try to tell me a whole lot of opinions, but it ain't meant none. Flip too many elbows in my youth to ever give a jug rent money. Whole bunch of bozo, the clowns in the circus, but it ain't shit funny. Type of nigga stands ground, 25 brown, me ain't getting touched. Ain't trying to say I wish a motherfucker would, but I might test some. Told my own mama she don't come out the palace, won't see her grandson. Bitter pill, tough love, ain't no one around, never gon' say something. Patience for the fuckery, when in the furnace with my grandma. Snatch the range, you niggas trying to crash out, bitch, I handle it. Ain't the type of nigga let her pull my strings, ain't no mandolin. Popping off on the burner, don't give a fuck if I get banned again. Virus, dumping data out the payloads. Mufasa, host far scared if I say so. No problems, me or my brother don't play those. Pill poppers, trying to run the game into an overdose. Dark science on test that lost 3 home. Long live Skilo, long live Alpha Gilly, long live Chefs. Yet another Florida winter. Florida winters. Clear skies after that hurricane cleared out. Florida winters. Some nice breeze kicking through. You know I done spent winters outside in the grass. I done spent winters in the executive penthouse with Florida winters. Top floor, corner pocket. Florida winters. Credit score way up. Christmas gifts to everybody. Oh, these stocks going up. It's crypto up too. That's how it go. You deal with the Florida winters, you know. But now these days, building relationships I wouldn't believe. Reaching for heights that I never thought possible. It's a common misconception that all bees hibernate in the winter. Nah, not so. Not all of us. Some of us gotta hunt. Florida winters, yeah. Florida winters, yeah. Florida winters, yeah. Florida winters. Space coast goes tough out the city. If I step out in this bitch, turn a thriller. My eyes to witness some shit that was chillin'. So stay on my grind, ain't no time for no chillin'. Let blind lead the blind, run the muck in the middle. No step in my court, leave you skunked like a riddle. Dig up the stump and then planted some cannabis. Artists expressing so shit don't go federal. Now I'm on medical, think about cultivating. Now I'm increasing my schedule. Storylines I've lived several. We can go round like a merry-go. Tell you a story if you don't know about me. Ain't saying I'm a peep at hoes 5 deep line. Come check out my pride. Rafiki with the iron rod. I can put him to sleep. Stay on my keyboard, still good in the street. I done traversed the whole O with my feet. Magic the way that I stay out the beef. Cabbage and kale, I'll turn a new leaf. Whole lot of people don't know about my city. Rock if you burning from bricks to the bushes. Home of the triangle, mango and cushions. Puff so much, nigga, winds just slip through. Open the window if you're vetting your issue. Made the wrong move here, people gon' miss you. Whole lot of power, better bring your tissues. New life starting and a new life strip. Some shit you go through just will not make sense. Transmute the trauma, show God in my strength. 3 partners killed, got some theories who did it. Better find God where they say in this trip. Florida winters, hope it don't get too chilly. Fools get silly, my city. I ain't nobody dinner. Don't take a sage for a sip, nigga, split your shit. Florida winters, Call of Duty scope on the ground, cause the people around they ain't on shit. Florida winters, gotta keep the money on your mind, stay dangerous. Fuck staying safe, nigga, Florida winters. Hope it don't get too chilly. Fools get silly my city. I ain't nobody dinner. Don't take a sage for a sip, nigga, split your shit. Florida winners. Call of Duty scope on the ground, cause the people around ain't on shit. Florida winners. Gotta keep the money on your mind, stay dangerous, fuck staying safe, nigga.
When I cut on my wrist, that thing is blank. When I cut on my brain, it's not the same. It's a full-tank tank. Pumping that gas and I fill it with premium. This one got my favorite BPM. Your girlie put in my CD in. It's a Mercedes, you see me in. It's a Mercedes.
When I cut on my game, it's like a clock. And you know what that mean, it never stops. Picture me rolling with the top down. Picture me rolling down the boulevard. Popping it, popping it, popping off. Bar so fire like Molotov. In our studio, Barbara. It's me, Josh, with the hot sauce. I can recall when we didn't have money. Driving around and just freestyling. Bumping our feature with Hella Kid Cudi. Let's settle to be, yeah, he want it. Bro, I'm concocting. If you do not like it, then it's not me. But when it is me, I can see your head bobbling. My money never wobbling. Probably they gon' give me free parking, man. It's just like Monopoly, you struggling.
When I cut on my wrist, that thing is blank. When I cut on my brain, it's not the same. It's a full-tank tank. Pumping that gas and I fill it with premium. This one got my favorite BPM. Your girlie put in my CD in. It's a Mercedes, you see me in. It's a Mercedes.
I don't got no jewelry on my neck. All the gold I have is up in my head. I'ma turn my dreams into reality. You should probably go ahead and try it. I don't got no jewelry on my neck. All the gold I have is up in my head. I'ma flip it, turn it to a salary. You should probably go ahead and try that.
I don't got no chains, if I did it go shing and I bling. Wish you would grab this blade on my neck. Critical deposit direct on the check. Wake up, say thank you cause I am too blessed. Smoke too much, never feel any pressure. Black Panther from Florida, move fast to the left. But I don't got no spots in my record cause I don't be telling them nothing. Lamp no sun, the highest gas mileage 93 octane is 34 premium. Big up the spitter, them haters gon' see me when this for the ones that I hopped on the ship, don't believe in them. Can't keep up the pilot talk, calling the sea change, bitch manifest everything that I could want with a secret. I am evolution of niggas. Library got some books, all type of topics they don't want me to read, nigga. Metaphysics, lyrical mind doctor, running back on repeat, nigga. Multiple streams of income starting to drop. Think I'm starting to get rich, bitch. Got my shit together, back to business, starting to drop shit, but it's time for me to eat, bitch.
When I cut on my wrist, that thing is blank. When I cut on my brain, it's not the same. It's a full-tank tank. Pumping that gas and I fill it with premium. This one got my favorite BPM. Your girlie put in my CD in. It's a Mercedes, you see me in. It's a Mercedes, yeah.
Thought that I slipped, you was tripping, you recognize quickly. I won't try the ball for you niggas, never gon' follow you niggas. Cannot depend on you, so I won't call on you niggas. Might hit the switch and just ball on you niggas. Throw the first hit, now who taller, bitch nigga. Carry my squad on my shoulder, they didn't with all of my niggas. I'm cool like koalas, though pimpin'. Fat in the guts in my wallet, I hope you ain't calling me. Got a new number, little bitch. Counted the clock, I know I'ma get rich. Do not come back at the bottom, we switch. She just wants sit in the tub on the twist. She don't want a man and she don't want no kids. I told her, la mama, look, you can do this. She don't want a man, let's see what it is. Told her get back when she on the business and she just keep hanging the nigga. Ain't tell her she trippin' cause she gotta figure it out. Ain't no cape in here, baby. Want me to give you my time, gotta pay me. You thinking you running my money, you crazy. You can't stop my grind, it's about money and training. I'm building a castle to raising my baby. You thought that I slipped, you was tripping. You recognize quickly, I won't drop the ball for you bitches. Never go fall for you bitches. got some things on my itinerary, I know they won't stop me. I jump in the game, they pass me the ball, I know I won't drop it. They acting like fakes, I think that they clones, I know they all copies. So telling my son, we on the way home, I'm up from the bottom. Ain't talk about money, won't answer the phone, put myself on the clock. Ain't checking to nobody, building my own, incorporate my shit. Circle too small like a Cheerio, oh, I don't need no clowns here. Come with a rah-rah shit, check on your tone, undeliverable round here. Grew up by NASA, they sniping with drones now from the sky shit. Don't even go out and they flagging my profiles and all kind of shit. I step back from rapping a second, about both ways, stack my grip. Can no longer settle for second, y'all put the pedals on fuck niggas. Big brain, big guts, big foot, big what, no ifs. Big play, big nuts, on the table, failing ain't no shit. Big wave, big rupture, big blade, big cut, and I don't miss. Big game, night rook, chess play, spread over the board shit. Ain't wait for nobody to pass me shit. Apply my own skills to get whoa rich. Man, college teachers couldn't tell me shit. Lap your whole business, there's one lick. Ain't swiping shit, no fraud around here. Just a real nigga on the double click. Scoped out the mill, finna snipe that shit. Got iron sights on my mental, bitch. I got some things on my itinerary, I know they won't stop me. I jump in the game, they pass me the ball, I know I won't drop it. They acting like fakes, I think that they clones, I know they all copies. So telling my son, we on our way home, I'm up from the bottom. I got some things on my itinerary, I know they won't stop me. I jump in the game, they pass me the ball, I know I won't drop it. They acting like fakes, I think that they clones, I know they all copies. So telling my son, we on our way home, I'm up from the bottom. Rest in peace to my homies caught up by that fentanyl. That shit be laced everywhere. Wonder where it's dripping from. Lord knows I pulled my soul to keep from living criminal. Trace back through my DNA. Found out I'm a seminal. Tomahawk and hating motherfuckers. Really splitting them. Do anything for my son, but I don't think they get me though. Witches try to pull me out my character, tongue impeccable. Agreement number one, but they ain't internalized them codes. Data bank overflowing, turn my thoughts into gold. Calisthenic, 30 minutes, Hulk Hogan swole. Ain't magic, gotta stay consistent, bridges over trolls. Every time you put your foot up in the pot, wiggle your toes. Never quit it, nigga, want me keep it simple. That's the mode. Stop looking up at rappers, better look up to your own self. Standing on my 10 so long, I really do not want help. Situations that I stood through, y'all would fold like long chairs. Long hair, chest length, double strand, warlocks. Go ahead, test me. Broken nose at age 5. Not mine, senseis, then Lucius, and so on. Ain't non-violent, look any nigga in the eye, ain't scared of nobody. What you know about it, being moved by them killers, but ain't touched by nobody. It's a cold body, cause the real know the real ain't disputed by nobody. Respected in the pen, he that nigga doing cold riding. Whole library, about 60 books, $40, no come from nobody. Water's right hand grabbed me, got burned by my soul fire. Say get this nigga up out of here, motherfucker, gon' raise up a whole riot. Might pop at any time, especially if it get too quiet. Think another night I'll raise the cap and out of time. Who can't do nothing about it? Ask the man in the mirror, is he bothered about it? No standing skirt, no doubt about it. Spent a lot of years, soft spoken quiet. Not a game I learned to get loud about it. Body slam, the game ride piper. Ultimate warrior, nobody stopping. Goals on the block, keep the chopping them. No upbeat, that's a base of vominos. Rest in peace to my homies, caught up by that fuck. Shit be laced everywhere, wonder where it's dripping from. Lord knows I pulled my soul to keep from living criminal. Trace back through my DNA, found out I'm a seminal. Tomahawk and hating motherfuckers, really splitting them. Do anything for my son, but I don't think they get me though. Witches try to pull me out my character, tongue impeccable. Agreement number one, but they ain't internalized
buddy. Let's see where we at. Am I on this bitch? Is we in here? We in here. Hold up. Let me get the damn light on. Nigga tripping. Wait a minute. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hopefully not, because this is a grown-up episode, grown-up conversation. Thank you for tuning in, and welcome to Grown Man Talk Podcast, Episode 3. I am Samurai Black, yours truly, and today we are going to talk about some less dark things. I know the first two episodes, for those of you who've been following along, first episode was taken down, which is kind of funny because it was chilling for like 3 months, and then they decided that 17 seconds of it was worth a copyright strike, even though the copyright owner didn't have a problem with it before. But at any rate, that one's taken down. That one's going to be up on Rumble soon. Also going to put it on a couple other alternative platforms. And episode 2 about energy harvesting and such things related around it. That one is still live on the YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out after this one. But for today, this is actually going to be the first time I'm streaming this live on YouTube, so it's pretty exciting. I haven't streamed anything on YouTube on this channel in particular in maybe 2 years. So yeah, this is going to be a neat little experiment. Hope y'all should be able to hear me well enough. Got the whole setup and all those things. Before we get started, just a couple things I want to go ahead and announce. For those of you who tuned in to the beginning of the stream, you may have heard some tracks of mine that you never heard before. Several of those are from my upcoming album called Florida Winters. It's coming up very soon. You may notice the irony in the title, considering there's not really a noticeable winter in Florida. So we tend to have some pretty interesting things happen around here, and I kind of play with that theme throughout the album, but also talk about a lot of real shit and really kind of pour my soul into it. This is without a doubt, and I've said this before, I said this on Instagram, Getter, Twitter. I've said it with other people who have maybe let hear some of the tracks or talked about it with. This is definitely my best, most cohesive body of work to date. I'm super proud of this. I don't know, honestly, I don't even know where the fuck most of this shit came from. Some of them was just like songs that I'd had stashed for like almost a year, and then I pull it back up, and it just kind of fit perfectly with what I was trying to say. And some of them just all kind of came out, within the last few months. So super proud of this one. Everything's done except the artwork. Everything's mixed and mastered. All that is super clean, as you can hear and see. So yeah, that's going to be coming very, very soon. Very soon, considering, we are in wintertime. You can expect that likely before Christmas. And also have a few singles that I'll be dropping in and around that time. So with that said, Florida Winter's coming soon. Make sure to check it out. For those of you who are interested in my work, in my music, feel free to check out the track Itinerary. I pinned it in the live chat. You can go to samuraiblackmusic.com/itinerary, or if you want, you can hit the link. Where's the shit at? Down here? Oh no, other side. Whoops. Fuck. Here, yeah, you see what I'm saying. Down there where it says samuraiblackmusic.com. You can just go there. It'll take you to me on Google. Ignore the goofy ass picture they have on there. I told them to update that shit like 6 months ago. So Google's slacking, Google. But with that said, feel free to pull that up. It'll take you to all my music stores, all the different platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, blah, 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 blah. And, feel free to add me to your favorite playlist. So with that said, let me see, was there anything else? Yeah. Shout out to Virgin Boy Tony, my brother. Just landed in Medellin. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's a fucking gringo nigga. But yeah, he just landed in Colombia. He's having a great time, building up, enjoying the sights, enjoying the lifestyle, about to get rich. So we're in a little bit of a, I guess you could say maybe a little bit of a race. I'm going to see if I can get rich here first. He has a bit of an advantage over there with certain things, but we're gonna see what it do. But either way, shout out to my boy. Appreciate my boy. You know, yeah, that's family, that's love, all that. Yeah. All right, so grown man talk. So today we're on episode 3. For today's episode, I chose the topic of portals, and I also added on, you know, just for a little alliteration, like that little tongue twister. Also added portals, problems, and prosperity, because when you look at it and you break down portals, they can kind of go either way. All right, so when I say portals here, I don't want you to think I'm talking about like some Rick and Morty shit per se. Even though, you know, we could maybe go there a little bit later. I am going to talk a little bit about science and, you know, some particle physics and certain things that are related to it, some quantum mechanics, etc. Not too much. Ain't going too deep into that shit. But for those who know me personally, know that it's like a portal over there knocking my vacuum down and shit. But those that know me personally know that I spent quite a bit of time in the science lab, in the physics lab, in grade school, and you know, I was fortunate enough to be in this program that was hosted at FIT, but essentially it turned out that it was basically run by CERN. There was also some other government organizations that were providing us grant money, the National Science Foundation, Department of U.S. Department of Energy, etc. So it's probably one of the most intriguing things, I guess, about that was that essentially my first 9 to 5 was in a science lab, getting tax-free grant money and building all these particle physics, you know, detectors and such things. So I have a very interesting experience with that and with portals in particular. In that project, for those of you who may know about CERN, you know, the most popular thing about them is the Large Hadron Collider that they have over in Geneva, Switzerland. A huge, like, multi-mile, you know, I don't know if it's like 3 miles, 6 miles, I can't remember, but the huge ring that they have underground where they fire particles and protons and shit at each other and try to create black holes and wormholes and all types of weird shit, summon demons, whatever the fuck they're doing. But at any rate, there are some other particle accelerators and other projects that were attached to that I was involved with, and I was able to, you know, collect data for rather, and you know, do some experiments and you know, swap data with other researchers around the world. I mean, there was people everywhere from, you know, of course, over there in Geneva, Switzerland, around here. They have Fermilab in Chicago, which is another assimilator, or accelerator rather, and they focus more on like gravitons and shit like that, so it's a little bit different there. But at any rate, suffice to say, I had quite an interesting experience with some of these things and portals and such things. So one second, let me get my coffee. Still brewing. So one thing, let me just kind of like tell you a little bit about the story of how I got involved with that whole project, right? And just kind of how it all started. So I was in science research. The program was brand new at my high school at that particular time. I joined the second year that they had it open. The first year they only had 2 students. It was just like 2 cheerleaders trying to find a fuck off period and not trying to do anything. Basically, when I came in, I made shit serious. And I'm not just saying this just to say it. I was the first person, and this is like a nerdy ass flex, but still kind of a fucking big deal. It's the first person to bring any type of merit in the science field, you know, particularly with science research and state level recognition to my high school in about 50 years, or let's say about 30, 40 years. I think the last one before me who placed in the science fair was like 1972 or some shit. So I mean, you know, I'm not that goddamn old. So obviously it was about, I don't know, like 05, 06, 07, something like that, when I started getting involved with this project. So I'm in science research. It was pretty clear to my instructor that I knew a bit about the scientific method and the processes and such thing. I mean, I spent quite a bit of time with that program in middle school and such, as well. So towards the end of the school year, I believe this was it's the end of my end of my 10th grade year, my instructor was like, hey, you know, you interested in making some money doing this experiment over here at FIT and, you know, playing with some subatomic particles and shit? So I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do that, sure. So went about that. It was myself, about 2 other students from my school. It was a chick that was a couple years older than me, so she was a senior, and another guy that was I think he was in my grade as well, so he was like a sophomore, junior, and one of my homies from another high school. We happen to know each other from friend circles and stuff like that. So it was basically just the 4 of us in this whole experiment as far as for this particular summer. And so when we arrived the first day, of course, it was a summer program. It was, you know, daily, basically like, you know, standard 9 to 5-ish hours. And I remember we had an orientation in the beginning where the professor at the college, who actually currently works at CERN now, he did move over to Geneva, Switzerland after this project, or this leg of the project was finished, and you know, started working on some of the more direct projects there. But this particular professor, when we first arrived, he gave us maybe like this hour and a half rundown on basically just kind of the basis of particle physics. He didn't really tell us a lot. He really kind of just like pointed us to certain things, and you know, kind of instructed all of us to kind of study and research it all ourselves, and basically try to figure it out. But he did lay down some fundamentals, and he told us some of the things that they were trying to achieve with their experiments. So there's 2 projects in particular that come to mind for me when it comes to this, particularly when it comes to this topic of portals. And I'm going to drop some references, you know, after or in a little while. You know, I'll pull it up on their site and stuff like that, so y'all know I'm not bullshitting with this stuff. So CERN, since the, I don't know, 1999 maybe, maybe even a little before that, they've had this project called ALICE. It's all in capitals, ALICE, kind of like Alice in Wonderland. And essentially the entire premise of this project is to create a portal to you know, possibly open another dimension, or see what the properties are and what the processes are in sending matter and energy through portals, particularly in kind of like, if you've ever looked at, I don't know, fucking Star Wars or Rick and Morty or whatever the case is, and you see how they do the depiction of a wormhole, right? So when you look at a wormhole, you have the opening gateway. Let's say, all right, let me get a little prop. Use this piece of paper. I fucked up tearing it, but you'll get the point. So let's say this sheet of paper is our dimension. This sheet of paper is our dimension for the wormhole, right? This is a plane, right? So, you know, you can walk on this plane, blah, blah, blah. There's buildings that are sprouted up on it, etc. 3-dimensional plane, but we're looking at a 2D representation. What wormholes do, essentially, is, let's say, if you... let's say, mark a point on here. I'm just going to mark it with an X. mark this point X, right? I'm not sure how well you can see that. Yeah, there you go. Now this is the point that you want to create your portal, right? So what a wormhole will do is essentially it will fold space-time, and let's say this is a different point. This can either be a different point in time or a different position, whatever the case is. May end up on another planet, whatever the fuck. All right. So what a wormhole essentially is supposed to do in theory is to basically bend space-time, considering space-time is connected. Connect this point that you just created with your X, where your portal point is, to the other end by quantum entanglement, wherever you want your destination to be. Research quantum entanglement if you're curious about that. There's plenty of information on that. But basically, connect the 2 points and then create a place where it can punch through. All right, so now if we look at, let me see how visible it is. Yeah. So if it's, we see we got our starting point right here. This point right here is where the exit of the portal is. So essentially it's to bend it to instantaneously end up on that side. I know that shit sounds confusing because it is confusing. It's not normal stuff. But I assure you, these motherfuckers take this shit 100% seriously. And there's been quite a bit of data and studies that have been pressed to support that this appears to be something that could be actually accomplished in reality. Otherwise, they wouldn't be spending fucking billions and billions of dollars on the shit, right? So, what the professor was essentially explaining to us, and this shit blew my high school instructor's mind at the time too. I remember everybody in there had this massive ass headache at the end of the presentation. It was so fucking confusing. But it kind of opened our minds to certain possibilities, right? So the professor was essentially saying that there's certain particles, and I believe if my memory serves me, it's called a positron. You can go back and check and see if I know what I'm talking about. If you like, feel free to Google it. It's called a positron, Positron. It's a type of quark, which is a subatomic particle, smaller than an electron, etc., etc. Let me just pause real quick, because I got to slow down when I get into physics and shit. When it comes to particles that are smaller than an atom, and the composition of an atom, or the composition of all these particles that make up nature, it's not just protons, neutrons, and electrons. It's not. That's just the kind of the core three that we focus on. There's, if I'm not mistaken, at least 16, maybe 17 other quarks that have been detected, including, if you think about, like, for example, light. We also have the photon, which is kind of the basic building block of light. Electrons, of course, there's some called muons. There's all these types of weird quarks. They have like weird categories and shit, strange, up, down. They have all these weird properties. Some of them tend to quantum entangle, which is what I mentioned as far as creating that wormhole. And on a kind of a small quantum basis, basically, say you got this small particle here, and you got another particle that's identical on the entire other side of the universe. What quantum entanglement can do, and this has been tested and studied in lab and confirmed in various experiments, but essentially, when these two particles are entangled, regardless of the distance, regardless of what's going on with them, etc., if you do something to one of them, it'll make the other one respond the same. So you'll see that they'll be moving in the same motions, or maybe they'll spin the same motions at the same time, etc. A lot of weird shit, right? So back to the professor, so I don't go too far over our heads here. So the professor was basically saying that when you take a beam of these positrons, these subatomic particles, and fire the beam into a certain apparatus, it can in their theory, it can create a portal. It can split open a fucking hole in space time in the universe, and you can reach in and grab something, or something can come through. Whatever the case is, they weren't really sure what would happen after that point, because obviously they were still experimenting. But it was again something that they were very dogged and determined to see what was going to happen. Right now, for our end of the experiment, we focused on a specific subatomic particle called the muon. Now, the muon is somewhat similar to an electron, is negatively charged. However, it's about 600 times, if I'm not mistaken, smaller than an electron. It also moves about 2/3 the speed of light, so it's a lot fucking faster. Muons are constantly bombarding everything. They come from subatomic showers or cosmic ray showers. They come from the sun. If there's like a solar flare, we'll detect these increased levels of muons, etc. And I physically first not only built the devices, but also monitored and detected and sent the data for these devices for this. So I confirmed this shit myself during certain solar flare events and stuff. So these particular particles are pretty interesting. Like I said, they go about 2/3 the speed of light, so they're really fast. And with them being so fast and so small, they tend to penetrate basically anything shy of about 9 foot of lead. So, maybe like some type of underground bunker, or, a wall, or some facility or something like that. So they're very interesting. They constantly bombarded us, millions and millions, per second are hitting. It's going straight through your body, going straight through the earth, etc. Now, these particular particles, they were interested in because they had certain properties and certain ties to certain things that were theorized in quantum physics and particle physics. Like if you hear, you ever hear the concept of like dark matter, which is like this matter that can't be physically seen or touched or measured, but we can basically deduce that it's there because there seems to be more weight or mass in certain pockets of the universe, etc., that is not accounted for, right? So why am I talking about all this shit? Basically, long story short, the reason why I bring all this up and I bring your attention to this, even though I'm sure this is going to go quite over several people's heads, which is fine, there's a lot more to reality than meets the eye. When you look at things very, very closely on a quantum scale, they don't respond the same way that they do on a macro level, right? I can pick up and drop these headphones on the ground, and they'll probably break. I'll probably have to hit up Apple Care and get a replacement. But on the quantum realm, let's say you somehow pick up and drop a particle, that particle might go up. It might fly off to the side. It might just suspend in the air. You know what I mean? There's all these different properties and different occurrences, different probabilities that occur when it comes to these particles that for the most part is pretty unpredictable. That's the reason why they study this shit, because they can't really figure it out. You might fire the same particle a certain direction or at a certain way fucking 1,000 times, and it reacts 1,000 different ways, so that's basically the gist of why they're trying to kind of dig and see what's going on with it, because it essentially basically is believed by CERN and these other institutions that spend a lot of time studying these things. It's essentially believed that these particles are what comprise the fundamental building blocks of the universe. So they think that, okay, if we can figure out what this muon does and why it goes 2/3 the speed of light and why it goes so fast, and maybe if we can capture it and figure out maybe if we can harness the energy some type of way, etc., maybe we can actually figure out how to do this, and we can make portals and create fucking flying ships that can teleport through space without sound, and blah 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 blah, whatever else they want to do. All right. So the moral of the story is, if you think portals are just some Rick and Morty shit, nah, buddy, it's real. It's real. And mind you, when I was involved with this experiment, like I said, this was like 2005, 2006, 2007, 8. This is a long time ago. They've come a long way since then. And there's been certain milestones that I remember my professor was telling me at that particular time that they were looking forward to in like 10, 15 years. We've passed that time now. I've seen the news articles for, and their press releases and such things for these events that they were planning out, and several of them were successful, including last year when everybody was freaking out on it, right? So that's kind of a choppy, convoluted yet basic understanding of portals and particle physics. Now, one more thing I want to mention as far as this, and this is where it's going to get into the meta stuff. And I don't mean meta the company, I mean kind of like metaphysical. And this is also one of the most mind-boggling things in quantum physics or in quantum mechanics, that there's pretty much had people thrown for eons. There's this experiment, I'll drop a reference in the description, but it's called a Double-Slit Experiment, all right? And basically what they did was they set up this apparatus where it's kind of like a aluminum foil type situation with some holes poked through it, kind of similar to, I mean, not entirely like this, but kind of similar to this. You know how you would, poke some holes through for the shisha, for the hookah or whatever. So they had it set up with these different holes and, the apparatus, and they had a laser beam that was firing electrons at the apparatus to see basically what could be recorded on the other side, which hole the electron laser beam was going to go through. Long story short, what they found in this experiment, and this was like fucking 1932 or some shit like that, so this has been re-verified and confirmed like hundreds of times. But basically what they found was most of these subatomic particles, including the electron, including the muon that I was speaking of, including the positron, etc., most of them have this property where it's essentially they're a wave and a particle at the same time. So what that means is, what's a wave, right? Like you look at a wave in the ocean as there's let's say a tide's rising and a wave rises and a wave crashes. That wave's not going to hit one specific point, right? There's a spread. Whereas a particle is very specific. It's in a very particular place. It has a very particular position. It can only go a particular direction at the same time, right? What they found with this functionality through this experiment and other experiments that were done a little bit later on was that these particles, a lot of these subatomic particles basically act as both. So they basically, when you fire the electron, this is kind of the weird shit. And this is where it really kind of opens up the gate, right? When you fire the electron into the apparatus or through the apparatus, and let's say you weren't looking, it might shotgun spread. It's going to be completely random where your events are being recorded on the other side of the apparatus. Whereas if you fire the electron and you're looking at it, particularly if you're looking at like a specific spot, 9 times out of 10, just the action of you observing it changed the result. So what does that mean? Consciousness affects the nature of reality. We know this on a quantum physics level. Quantum science, particle physics. You can look this shit up. You can pull up another tab in YouTube and search Double-Slit Experiment or wave particle duality. You will see everything I'm saying here confirmed. This is not a fucking drill. Okay? So, metaphysically, what does this mean for us? Why does this even fucking matter? Like, who cares, right? This is nerd shit, right? There's no way this could have any type of practical application. And wrong. Because if your consciousness can affect subatomic fucking particles throughout the universe, what do you think your consciousness can affect as far as events around you? What do you think happens when you actually focus heavily and you have the ability to focus one-pointedly, or which is, it's a ancient yogi term. They call it one-pointedness, one-mindedness, right? Focusing on one thing, whether it's, your breath, right? Like you would in yoga or Tai Chi or whatever the case is. You want to clear your mind to where you're focusing specifically just on your breath, that one thing, right? What would happen if, let's say, you pour all your focus into being the absolute best person at whatever job it is you do? Let's say if I pour all my focus into being the best fucking lyricist, the best fucking rapper, having the best message, having the most impact of all time, just zoning in entirely on that, right? Well, what will happen is I will start to see results build in that direction, right? I may not, because I gotta live life. I gotta take a fucking shower every now and then. Gotta go take a walk. Gotta go handle some business. I gotta, go pick up some money, whatever the case is. Gotta go to the grocery store. So obviously I can't do that 24/7 myself personally. But I'm just saying, when it comes to this focus, I mean, it's it's clear for anyone who's ever fucking done anything. It doesn't matter what type of work you do. Doesn't matter what type of anything you do. You know that if you focus on something for a longer period of time, you're going to accomplish certain things in it, right? The reason why I'm bringing this up and explaining this is because if you juxtapose this and place this alongside the results of this double-slit experiment and this understanding of wave particle duality and the way consciousness affects things on a micro level, then one could postulate that sending continued focus to a specific objective, a specific end, will continue to create waves in the direction of that desired goal and bring that shit to you. All right? Something to think about. So portals. Let's go back to the original question. What is a portal, right? Now let's look at this the way that it's illustrated, the way that our minds tend to perceive it. What are some certain representations we've had throughout time that describe portals, right? We see a mirror. We see a doorway. We see a circle with some weird fucking green goo shit, and Morty's about to jump through. Rick's like, "Come on, Morty, don't think about it," whatever the fuck. There's always this kind of this. If you pay attention to pretty much any depiction of it, there's always this kind of spiral that begins the process, right? As a portal opens, there's a spiral, and then maybe somebody's gonna jump through, whatever the case is. So let's look at this function and formation of a spiral, right? When we think about tornadoes, we think about hurricanes, we think about, certain weather systems. What happens with this spiral? If you look at the inside of a tornado, or just the entirety of the body of the tornado, at the top you have the top of the funnel, right? That's where it's the widest at, and then it kind of narrows down as it gets towards the bottom, and it's spinning. All right. Now, in this tornado, there's a central point, and you can say the same thing for a hurricane, on a different scale, etc. There's a central point that the entirety of the system is spinning around, the whole system. If you look up a torus, or a 3D/4D representation of a torus, we have to depict it as a 3D or 2D image, because 4D is pretty difficult. unless maybe you have some type of hologram technology or whatever the case is. But if you look up a torus, it's essentially it's kind of like a donut shape. And if you kind of imagine the way a tornado spins, it's doing that on the center, while at the same time energy's coming down from the top and energy's coming from the bottom, and they kind of meet in the middle. It's a very interesting, strange thing. But if you look at basically anything that, any type of system like this, any weather system like this, even if you like scale out to like galaxies and shit like that, even universes, to be honest with you, well, not universes, but galaxy clusters, right? They all tend to take these patterns for the most part. They tend to take this swirling, rotating, hurricane-like structure. And, you know, if you look at galaxies like whirlpool galaxies, there's sombrero galaxies, blah, 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 all these different classifications we have for them. They all tend to follow the same pattern. They all spin. They all spin in one direction. And energy's moving throughout them in a certain way. And if you look closely, you're going to see the same thing that I was just describing with the tornado. Whereas there's this central point. There's the energy flowing kind of from the top downward and in through the system, and then the same with the other way around as well. So it's kind of a self-sustaining thing. An analogy I like to think of when it comes to this sometimes, and I know this is a bit of a jump, but if you can bear with me, you'll kind of understand. Let's say if you're looking at a business, the start of a business, a successful business, right? Let's say there's an operator, you know, CEO, CTO, CFO, etc. And maybe they got, I don't know, 50, 100 employees, right? If we imagine the administration and operations towards the top of this system, right? They're going to be sending their instructions. They're going to be sending the compensation, you know, for the people actually doing the work. They're going to be sending their commands, all these things. They're going to be sending their energy downwards through the system, right? And in the meantime, all these employees that make up the bottom of the system, even though say maybe they don't affect it individually as much as, you know, these few people towards the top do, they are still sending their energy up through the system, you know, by their labor, by, you know, let's say if, I don't know if it's customer service or sales or something, by working with the customers, by, you know, whatever the fuck it is, you know, right? They're sending their energy up while those at the top, the operators, the owners, etc., they're sending their energy down, and it continuously creates this system where energy, resources, all these things are flowing throughout it to make a living, breathing, successful business, right? The same energy flow is in, guess what, the human body, right? If you look up, what do they call that shit? The Merkaba, right? You know, there's a lot of talk about this stuff on like Instagram and YouTube spirituals and stuff like that. But on the same token, I mean, there's scientific evidence that each living, breathing being, an individual, has this field around them that makes the same fucking pattern I'm talking about that a universe does, or a galaxy does, or a tornado, a hurricane, etc. We have these fields around us all the time. Right now, you have a torus field around you. You have chakras. I don't care if you don't believe in chakras or yoga or whatever the case is. You have it. Sorry. It's the way that we're designed. Every living being does this. If you look at a tree and the way a tree sprouts out of the ground, right? If you just imagine like one of those massive trees that you see in Africa in a safari or whatever the case is, they have essentially the same expression. You got that central point. It may start from the bottom, you know, because of the type of organism it is. It starts from the seed, right? And from the root. But it sprouts up. It'll start spreading and distributing branches and such things, fractal patterns. It's another end. Not gonna dig too deep into that part, but it spreads and reaches up, kind of like if you kind of imagine the way that tornadoes wide towards the top. It's kind of the way the branches are spread out. And if you look underground, it also has the root system down there too. That's also spreading. Oftentimes, much wider and further than the actual what you can see out on top, right? So what does this mean? This means that there's certain ways that nature and living beings and just energy systems, period, tend to manifest throughout this universe, and they tend to have patterns. If you research fractals, you'll see, just briefly, you'll see that the same way that trees and tree branches distribute is the same way that your blood vessels distribute throughout your body and your arteries and veins. And it's also the same way that, I mean, if you look at, let's say I pull a leaf of kale out my fridge and spread it out, the veins of that one leaf will also have a similar distribution. If you look at rivers, if you're looking on a topographical map of wherever, let's say, I don't know, the Nile or the Amazon River or whatever the case is, Mississippi River, you'll look at it, you'll see that there's this main vein, which is, let's say, the Mississippi River, and it'll have all these little creeks and straits and such things splitting off on the sides, and they all tend to take these same patterns. All right. So this is something to kind of keep in mind. And I encourage you, if this sounds a bit curious to you, I would encourage you to just kind of look into fractals and look into toruses and tell me if there's anything you can find in nature that does not follow these patterns. Because I pretty much guarantee you, pretty much everything does. Anything that forms in nature. Same thing with seashells. It's the same way that seashells is formed, in that kind of galaxy spiral pattern, right? Some of our conch shells and blah, blah, blah. What does this have to do with portals? Well, let's go back to that tree. After the seed's been planted, and it's just about to sprout. I mean, it's right there, still in the seed, but it's right at that moment where it's about to cast off the seed and sprout. This plant, this new sprout, this tree, this new life, all of a sudden comes through a portal. It wasn't there before. It was latent. It was dormant. All right? It wasn't green. It didn't have any leaves. It didn't have a stem, all these things. But it was, the blueprint for it was inside that seed. Well, it can be argued, even if it's just in, say a metaphysical sense or allegorical sense, as that new life emerged from that seed, it comes through a portal. Right? We look at the birth of human beings and other animal life forms that are on this planet. And what is the woman, the womb? It's a portal of life. Right? There's only one natural way that people can come to this earth, or animals and creatures can come to this earth. Yes, I'm aware we have birthing machines and fucking sex robots and all this weird shit going on. I get that. But I'm talking about naturally. The womb essentially represents a portal of life. It's where new lives, whether it's a human being, animal, whatever the case, they're nourished. They begin to draw in those resources and draw in those all those ingredients and nutrients that it needs to eventually grow enough to manifest and spring into the world, right? There's always that saying that once the water breaks, the baby can't go back up there. The water breaks is pretty much over with. They're coming out one way or another. Whether the baby dies or the mom dies, that baby's gonna come out. after that water breaks. This is the way all things manifest into this world. And I don't mean manifest in that woo-woo, lame-ass way that most of the shit people are talking about on Instagram and stuff. I mean, actually manifest. This is the way things spring forth. Whether they're perceived to be positive, perceived to be negative, whether it's new life, whether it's a new idea, whether it's, just whatever the case is. This is how things manifest. And they come through the portal. Right? So we touched on the spiral of the tornado or the hurricane or galaxy or the seashell, right? And this formation and sustenance of this particular pattern. Now, if we look a bit, let's say metaphysically, and let's zoom out a bit and look at, let's say, the life journey of an individual, right? Now, we've all, well, maybe not us all, but most of us have been through, let's say, situations where, man, it's been a pretty lame week. Things just aren't going right. First, that motherfucker cut you off in traffic, and then you get back and your dog ran away. You got to chase it through the neighborhood, and then you're waiting for some mail to come or, cash to come, and, this happened with your bank card and blah, blah, blah. This is a terrible series of unfortunate events, right? Some people tend to attract these things more than others. We'll get into that. On the flip side, actually, before we flip that, notice that we have that phrase that we tend to attach to these events at times, saying, oh, this person's on a downward spiral, right? Let's say someone is dealing with drugs or drinking or, some type of vice that's taking them off their path that they're supposed to be going along. Their family members or friends or, any type of onlookers may look at that person and say, man, they're headed in the wrong direction. They're catching bad momentum. They're going through that downward spiral, right? They're going through a portal down to lower vibrations and lower experiences than they could be, right? Now we're going to flip that on the flip side. You balling. Right? You're on the come up. Let's say last week you was a broke bitch. But all of a sudden you got a job interview and they offering you $50, $100, $150 a damn hour to do something you can do. Or, you let's say you're a student and you hit a little stagnant place, but all of a sudden something just clicked. And you start smashing all your classes. You're the star of the show. Professors love you, all this type of stuff. You walk outside the classroom, that chick that was sitting a couple seats from me, she throw you a little eye, y'all get to linking up and talking and such things. These are different perspectives and different events that describe an upward spiral, right? As someone moves up through the path of success in whatever their chosen field or calling is. Even looking at the path of an artist, right? Particularly like an independent or underground artist. The first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, even if you're Russ, even, 11 projects, mixtapes, albums, whatever the case is, singles, they might not hit at all. However, as you continue to build momentum, right? You continue to build momentum. You continue to improve. You continue to increase your aptitude. Continue to build on your abilities and your skill sets. You continue to focus in one-pointed on that objective and attaining results from that objective. all of a sudden, it goes from 50 people listening to your project or song to, damn, 1,000 people just pulled up in an hour. What the hell? To, wow, 10,000 to 20,000 to 50,000. So, oh man, now I got playlisted by, Spotify or Tidal or Apple or whatever. I wasn't even expecting this. Now I'm in front of a whole bunch of things. Now I got these different promotional companies or labels or sponsors or whatever the case is reaching out to me, offering me opportunity. I got these other artists that are offering to, hop on these tracks with me or work with me or whatever the case is. It's an upward spiral. All right, it's a momentum game. I would say most, particularly when it comes to crafts today, in the internet age and social media age and TikTok speed and era, etc., most worthwhile pursuits tend to operate that way. If you look at someone that's in a sales job, right, that shit might fucking suck for them. Let's say they're on just straight commission and they don't get anything, but maybe they have like a sliding scale for the amount of commission they get. So I don't know, after the first 10 sales, they're supposed to get 10-15% of each sale, whereas after they cross that 10 sale threshold, they get bumped up to 20% and 30%, et cetera, et cetera. And I was speaking to a mentor about this recently, and they brought up this point. There's this slow start to the spiral process, and this is pretty much, again, with damn near any process is worthwhile as far as building momentum. It starts out slow. Let's say that person is working for this particular sales company that's commission only. Let's say they're working for them for a year. First 3-4 months, they might not get shit. They might have hit a egg the whole first month. They ain't getting nothing. Had a whole bunch of people slam doors in their faces and hang up on them and call them punk bitch or whatever the case is. And then all of a sudden, a month and a half in, they hit day 45, and they stumble into some lady's house, and let's say, I don't know, it's fucking door-to-door sales or something. That seems to be springing up a lot lately. But anyway, let's say they stumbled to some woman's house, and this is actually something that she needed. All right, she buys. Cool. Oh shit. Wow. I got a victory. I got a sale. Awesome. And then that may give them that boost of motivation to where they don't want to just jump off the cycle. They don't want to hop off the train so quickly. They want to press on for another month or so, right? Maybe, I don't know, let's say 15 days later, which is shorter than that 45 days they experienced before with no sales. Let's say 15 days later, they get 2 sales, right? Somebody calls them back on the phone that they talked to a month ago, and they're like, yeah, I want that shit that you were trying to pitch me, bro. I was bugging. I don't know, why I didn't go for it before. And they purchase. And let's say the next appointment they go to, they purchase as well. Now they got 2 sales in, what's that, a third of the time that they experienced to get that first sale? That's an upward spiral. That's momentum. 3, 4, 5, 6 months in, this motherfucker might be balling. They might be making 10, 20, 30 bands a month off of just putting in that time, reaching out and contacting multiple people consistently. Or let's say, again, we go back to the artist example, putting out song after song after song after song, right? Even if let's say you're a video editor, cutting, let's say maybe you're doing it for YouTube videos or TikTok or whatever the case is, putting in those reps and constantly producing and creating along the same path will start to create a spiral eventually. It's kind of inevitable. Like if you go, especially if you go about with a certain attitude that that it's going to happen, or you see certain evidence towards it, or somebody's walked that path before you, it's very easy to see that it's damn near inevitable that you're going to succeed. Well, guess what? On the other end, if you look at the reverse of that portal, person that's expecting that everything that they do when they go outside and then they're driving through traffic and somebody cuts them off and they get pissed off and now they're yelling at everybody and they're just expecting misfortune and blah blah blah. Guess what? They're gonna get that shit. It's gonna continue to propel them in that direction. So this is how these energy cycles and these portals and such things work, right? If you kind of zoom out and look at it across the whole scale, there's these downward spiral negative quote unquote portals, and then there's these prosperity portals. You can have portals that lead you to more problems and increasingly lose control of the circumstances that you're intending to attain and achieve. Or you can have portals that push you up through prosperity. It's momentum either way. What I'm explaining is the same physics. It's the same process. If you ever took physics, I was fucking nerd, man. I took AP physics in high school, like 11th grade or something like that. So if you ever took physics, mechanics in school, you would know that the formula for momentum, and even when you look at like velocity and shit like that too, is really the same either way. I remember my not velocity, acceleration. I remember my AP physics instructor, who he was a fucking genius. It was like this Canadian pothead dude. Had like 180 IQ. This dude used to read fucking physics books for fun, and he even showed me how to speed read. Like, shout out to Mr. Mac, if he's still around. I'm sure he is. That dude just smoked like a chimney. But anyway, I remember he was mentioning, and he broke down. He literally explained to us, and like there were certain textbooks that he was like shitting on because they didn't acknowledge this. There's essentially no such thing as negative acceleration. Think about it, right? You're driving a car. You can't negatively accelerate that car. You can accelerate in this direction or accelerate in that direction. Either way, it's still acceleration. The actual formula in itself is the same. When you get to, this level and, start getting into calculus and derivatives and iteration and shit like that. But basically on that second tier, that particular dimension where that formula for acceleration is, there's no actual positive negative about it aside from the vector that it's facing. It's really all relative. It's just perspective. It's the same thing when it comes to momentum, whether you're looking at it through like an actual physics sense or if you look at it through this allegorical sense that I was describing these particular situations. The momentum is the same either way. It's the same fucking process. Up or down. It's the same spiral. It's just which direction it's pointed at. And if we go back to what I said in the beginning of this, so you understand I'm not just ranting and I'm not just rambling here. If you recall, in the very beginning of this talk, I mentioned how your consciousness determines on a quantum level what that particle, in wave particle duality, where it goes. It determines where it becomes a particle. It determines the position, the location. This shit sounds weird, but like, as you can see, I've gone through this from a quantum physics sense all the way to metaphysics and real examples, nature examples, and it's kind of just one of those things that I've been unable to shake my whole life. And I've tested it, right? So I'm going to give you a little story in a second. Let me get my coffee for real. It's going to get cold. Hold on a second. So, little story. Ooh, toe cramp. God damn. So, some years ago, let's say I was disenfranchised. That's what I'll say. And this was entirely the case because I didn't have ID, I didn't have my birth certificate, I didn't have my social security card. So essentially to society, I was nobody. You have no idea how many things you cannot do if you don't have this paperwork. You definitely can't get no fucking 9 to 5. So you better find some way to get some money. Can't even fucking rent or borrow a book from the library if you don't have these things, right? Completely disenfranchised. Let's say there was some miscalculations. But I own that shit, right? Man, it's all good. Found myself on the streets of Orlando, right? And you know, there's many people. Shout out to all the all the people that are out there trying to make their way off the streets or trying to work their way through certain situations. You'll get there if you keep pushing. This is for you. This is why I'm talking about this. Found myself in a circumstance where the cash in my pocket is dwindling. Airbnbs are expensive. It's fucking Orlando. Transportation is expensive. You know, whether you're catching Lyfts or Ubers or you got to take the bus fucking 8 times a day to get around or whatever the case is, right? Very, over, let's say a pretty quick period of time, my resources dwindled down to basically nothing, right? Physically. On the streets, went as far as sleeping on the alley. And that was one night. That happened one night. Slept in the alley for about 2-3 hours. Said I would never, ever, ever spend another day sleeping outside in the streets. And, been successful since then as far as that goes. But tracing back to my mindset and what was happening around that time, this is the difference between me and my momentum, my spiral, compared to those that were around me, right? Let's say is 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, trying to find a place to post up. Walking through the streets, listening to Bob Proctor or Napoleon Hill. I had the shit on loop in my phone. I literally just had it saved in my phones. And if I, like, for example, if I ain't had no internet connection or Wi-Fi or phone service or whatever, I would just listen to that shit on repeat and allow it to focus me on or assist me in focusing on my objectives, right? So let's say it's 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, midnight, whatever the case is, walking through the streets trying to find a place, to kind of chill, maybe charge my phone, whatever the fuck. If you've been out there, that shit gets pretty tough. But the difference was I would look around and I would see people that were out there much longer than me that weren't carrying the things that I was carrying. They didn't have a phone. They weren't really trying to find a place to be. Some of them might have even just said fucking and slept on the sidewalk. I literally have a picture on my phone of a dude just sleeping on a sidewalk in downtown Orlando. I mean, there's hundreds of them, Any type of major city, people, we all know how it is in America, etc., right? There's a little skid row everywhere. But I remember looking at this as I'm listening to Napoleon Hill and have my mind on my objectives for what I was trying to accomplish that night, how much I needed to sit down and, how long I needed to sit down and rest, and what exactly I needed to do the next day to get to where I needed to get to. I realized that the people around that I saw around me that were like this, they had no momentum. They did not understand that they could build momentum, and they weren't trying to build momentum. Me, I would go to sleep every night every single fucking night during this time period. Even if I might not even been able to sleep sometimes, but when I could, I would spend those last moments, instead of fucking panicking and, oh, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do, instead of all that shit, I would have these kind of mental council meetings with, let's say they're virtual imaginary mentors. Some of them were real people, but some were passed on, etc. Just people that I picked out certain traits from that I admired or wanted to emulate. I would have these kind of meetings with them in my head. I'm going super duper deep, actually, even revealing this. I'm kind of surprised I'm saying this on the stream, but it is what it is. Maybe it'll help someone. By the way, it's something I learned from reading Think and Grow Rich, maybe like the fucking 20th time, by the way. So it's not something I created. But I would have these kind of council meetings in my mind, and I would have a notepad out. I got notepads all over the place in here. Some of them I actually probably still have those notepads that I was using then. But I would jot down basically the steps that I would come up with in my imagination in these council meetings, these invisible council meetings with my imaginary mentors or what have you. This shit sounds crazy. I fully understand that shit. But I tell you 100%, every single day, every single time while I was doing this, and I did this very consistently, the next day I was always able to accomplish more. The next day I would suddenly find a way to get out, of course, tend to my hygiene, all that stuff, and maybe pop up in a Starbucks or something with my laptop, and reaching out to business owners and realtors, and got this job opportunity, this that. It was to the degree where there were certain opportunities that came to me so fucking fast that I wasn't ready for them. Like I really wasn't ready for it mentally at that particular time. Like I remember I'm riding on the bus, using the bus Wi-Fi to make a call to an employer that reached out, and it was like a sales situation, but they had a very solid base, as I'll reveal in just a moment. And I remember as I'm talking to the woman who's interviewing me, she's pretty much, ready, on board, and she likes how I'm talking. She knows, she can see that I can slang that phone, etc. She says, "Okay, so how much do you expect to start with in this position?" Right? And I was it was funny because I was in my mind, just coming from that particular situation. Again, I was on the streets. In my mind, her asking that, I'm thinking, damn, if I ask for 20, 25 an hour, they're gonna think I'm reaching. But fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway, right? This is how I was thinking. So I said 25 an hour. That'd be a great start, plus whatever bonuses, etc. that y'all have. This lady immediately, very disappointedly said, "I'm sorry, this isn't gonna be a fit for you. We start no lower than $45, $50 an hour here. I don't think I don't think you have the right expectations to fulfill this role." Shit blew my fucking mind. I did not ask for enough money, so I didn't get the job. I opened the portal to get my ass off the street and got a job offer for fucking $50 an hour. And I wasn't prepared to receive it because I wasn't expecting to receive it, because I did not have my consciousness focused on receiving that particular bout. This is the way this shit works. So I took that in mind and just proceeded. Very quickly after that, I found myself, off the streets and, et cetera, in better situations. Obviously, I got my own little studio set up here and all this stuff. I'm able to stream and record and, create content and all sorts of other work for different companies and things. But this is something that always stood out to me, because it's literally like It's kind of like the moment in a movie where you see it's like some like parallel universe type shit, like parallel reality, and they open the portal and they see like their other self or their loved ones on the other end of the portal, and it's like a much nicer place. Maybe it's like a more technologically advanced parallel reality or whatever the case is. They're all happy, whatever the case is. And I'm looking through this portal and I see this potential employer and, you know, my potential self looking from the other side, reaching out to try to pull me through, and I was not ready. You have to be ready. If you're intending to succeed in whatever you're trying to do, in anything you're trying to do, you have to expect that you're going to succeed. There's no other way about it. You cannot have a mindset that I'm going to suck at this, or there's any type of way that I'm going to fail at this, because just you having that thought and that mindset or that idea in your head is basically going to increase the chance that you are going to fail. All right, what do they say when you're driving a car and you're coming up on a heavy turn or a cliff and you're going too fast, and what do they say, if you're trying to avoid the accident, don't fucking stare at the wall. If you're going around a curve or around a cliff or whatever the case is, don't look off the cliff while you're driving, bitch. Look at the road. Look at where you're headed. Where are you trying to go? Look through the portal that you want to go through. You can create it. You can open it. Anywhere. It don't matter what situation or circumstance you're going through. And there's people in real life right now that can verify this shit. I've gone from sleeping outside in a park, on the grass or on the ground, being bit up by ants or fucking mosquitoes or whatever the case is. Mosquito net over my head, mosquito spray all over me. Got my fucking sweatpants tucked in my Air Forces. Yes, black Air Forces. Stomped them bitches until they were moldy and had to throw them away. Yeah. Real Florida boy. Yeah. But I went from being in that position to the next day suddenly getting a bunch of money come in, and now I'm sleeping on a yacht for the low, because the yacht was a lower price than all the other places that I was looking at to stay, including Airbnbs and hotels and all that type of shit. And then all of a sudden I'm in this yacht for like a week on the water in the marina. My first time on a yacht. I was on the park, on the grass, on the fucking floor, or the dugout, or whatever the case is, the night before. Now I'm on a yacht. I could not have opened that portal and gone through there and had that experience and shared that experience with those that were with me at that time. I could not have done that if I was just thinking, oh man, I'm going to be in this park fucking forever. This is what I'm destined to be. This is all I'm gonna amount to. No, fuck that shit. Listen, man. I done been through so many fucking portals. And you can kind of, if you pay attention, you can see. I've been through so many different circumstances, both downward, you know, mind you, I ain't never had no like crazy spin out on drugs or no shit like that, or never been an alcoholic, blah blah blah. But I've been through so many, let's say, less optimal circumstances, and see, that shit turned around so fast or so violently in a positive direction. I can't really be shook by shit. Like I can't really I don't really know how to expect anything other than a victory at this point. Even if I'm quote unquote losing from my metrics or whatever the case is, I don't give a fuck if somebody else's metrics say I'm losing. If I'm losing by my metrics, let's say I'm not on my pace, I still don't have the ability to not believe that I'm gonna win. it's been shown to me time and time again. It's been tested so many times in my life that from being 15, 16 in the science lab and having a fucking particle physics instructor flat out tell me that my consciousness affects reality and the nature of reality on a quantum scale, to me testing out and focusing on certain things and mindset. And, you know, it's all through my music. For those of y'all that follow along with me, you know what I've been on. I may talk some shit. I may talk about, I don't know, fucking chopping up a child predator or some shit like that. But for the most part, I'm always focused on success, prosperity, victory. How can I achieve this? How can I make this task list as efficient as possible towards the goals that I want, and knock out these tasks one by one, and fully living in the feelings of that? What is it going to feel like on the other end of that when I actually complete all these things? And when I get to these places, what does it feel like when I set a goal and I imagine myself there and then I get there? Right, just the whole process. I've been through that so many times and tested it so many different times in so many different ways. I really don't know any other way to be. And it served me very well. Because if I didn't have this mindset, I firmly believe I would not be alive today. But I am. I came through the right portal. So listen. I don't know how long. I've been going about an hour and a half. Oh, spill a little coffee in the beard. Whoopsies. When it comes to portals, problems and prosperity, understand that problems and prosperity are two sides of the same spectrum. It's the same line. Same mechanics, same dynamics. They're not separate systems. All is one, as some may say in some esoteric teachings and whatnot. So if you find yourself in a space where you're encountering a lot of problems, maybe there's people around you that are not a good influence, or they have bad habits, or maybe you're in circumstances that are less than ideal, or whatever the case may be, understand that there is a doorway, there is a portal that you can go through pretty much at any time, any moment, and you decide to. It's there. That job offer for $50 an hour when I was on the streets, it was there for me. I had the option. But inside, I hadn't fully decided and committed that I deserved that at that time. Or that was the way that I wanted to go at that time. Now, if I knew what she was going to say after that shit, it probably would have been, if I knew she was going to offer me, $40, $50 an hour while I'm on the streets riding around on the motherfucking public links bucks using their Wi-Fi. Definitely would have responded differently. I might have peeped that portal a little sooner and slipped through that bitch like Rick and Morty, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide. Which side do you want to be on? Which end of the spectrum do you want to live and experience? Which portal do you want to go through? Which door do you want to go through? It's kind of like, have you ever had that dream or just even been an experience where you walk into a place and it's maybe a long extended hallway, and it's just a bunch of doors, whole bunch of doors. Even if you imagine like I don't know, like a Doctor Strange or any of these type of films that kind of express this. There's like express this as far as like in the dream world and whatnot. Or these different doors representing different choices. Certain doors may be going to, as they describe, the lower realms, or this door goes to the shadow realm, all that type of shit. But you go through this door and there's fucking butterflies and beautiful fields of flowers and beautiful women frolicking throughout, and sunshine 24/7 and stuff like that, right? You have the choice, absolutely, and the control 100% on which doorknob you turn and open. Oftentimes, you have the choice when you turn and open that doorknob to go through that portal. You can look and see what's over there on the other side. You can even decide further whether or not you want to go through there. Problem is, with many people, they do not exercise this shit. They don't. Everything happens to them rather than happening through them, or rather than them happening to their environment. You have to be, particularly as a man, you have to be what happens to things. Things don't happen to you. Nothing happens to you. What do we say in the very beginning of this shit, right? Quantum science, quantum physics has proven that our consciousness affects the nature of reality on a quantum scale. These different quantum particles and rules and properties, they create and comprise and compose what happens on the macro, right? I got this Whetstone, right? This block. Solid, right? If I drop this bitch on my toe, my toe's gonna be broken. But this Whetstone, while in the macro world, I can say, take my blade and, wet the Whetstone and sharpen it. But on the micro, guess what? If I zoom in, there's gonna be air pockets in between it. There's going to be, in between the particles of this Whetstone, there's going to be movement, vibration. Otherwise, I would not be able to grab this and pick this up. There's it's strange to think that a block as solid as this that can affect me in the macro world, or anyone in the macro world. I wish a motherfucker would try to walk in my studio right now. Bow! Obviously do some things with something like this. It's just pretty heavy, maybe 4, 5, 6 pounds. It's very interesting and odd to think and understand that if you zoom in very, very, very close, you're going to see pockets of air. You're going to see space. And that's the majority of it. 99% of the shit is empty space in between this. And it's not just this particular object, anything. Everything has space in it. What does this allow for the Whetstone? This allows, when you put the Whetstone into, let's say, a bucket of water, or whatever the case is, it allows it to soften the particles and bring motion and life to them, quote unquote, to where, okay, now the edge of this is wet enough to where I can shave my blade on it, and it'll actually remove some of the uneven iron, or remove some stains, or remove a crack that I have in the blade, or whatever the case is. That's what it's used for. Anything in the macro space and the macro scale that you look at, essentially has this nature. Some more so than others, right? The wall, you know, it feels solid, but there's space in between it. It's understood in physics and science, right? So let's zoom in a bit one last time here, because I keep bouncing back and forth between, you know, quantum and, you know, and large space and the micro and the macro. This sounds like a fucking episode of Ant-Man or some shit like that. But let's go back to that original premise just one more time, as far as consciousness affecting the nature of reality and the nature of particles and you know, the way certain things operate in the quantum realm. Let's ask a quick question. What is consciousness? Consciousness is a vibration. It's an energy. There's this study, and you could look it up. I think it's called there's a specific weight. It's like something grams, like 1 point something grams or 2.8 grams. I can't recall exactly. I'll try to throw a reference in the description. But basically, there's been this study to determine the weight of the soul. If the soul is actually a thing, if consciousness is separate from the body, if the soul goes somewhere after the body leaves, right? And basically what was found through, for example, weighing someone before they pass, before they die, and moments after, they found that there's a very specific amount of weight that seems to change when a person passes on. I know I said I wasn't going to get dark here, but I'm just touching on this for a second. It's important. Look it up. It's called the weight of the soul. I can't remember the exact weight. It's like 1 point something grams or 2.8 grams or whatever. But if you pull it up, you'll see several articles on this. And this is from, you know, esteemed journalism. You know, you might see this like Scientific American Mind or, you know, I don't know, some fucking NIH study or some shit like that. But it's essentially been shown in research and, you know, for all intents and purposes, scientifically proven that the soul has a weight. There is a certain difference in the mass of the being, the vessel, before and after it passes. So what is that? Where's that weight coming from? Where's that extra mass? Just the body being animated, or is there an actual essence? Is there actual energy? Is there actual substance, so to speak, that's giving it this extra 2 grams or whatever the case is? So understanding that, let's touch back on that question. What is consciousness? Well, consciousness is vibration. There's a lot that is not known so much about it in modern science. It can be argued that many ancient practices and you know, certain things, certain types of studies of internal arts and martial arts and yoga and, you know, blah blah blah. It's arguable that some of these actually kind of have an idea of what's going on with that, and through their frameworks they can actually break it down and explain it. But, you know, Western medicine, not so much. Not so much through the frame of reference of Western science, because quite simply we don't really have. We're not looking with the right variables. We can't really identify. It's kind of outside of the range of certain definitions that we use, as far as in science and biology and such things. However, I mean, the data is there. Again, when a person dies, there's a certain weight difference from their body no longer being animated. So this consciousness is vibration. Maybe the next episode I will get into the whole concept of consciousness and super consciousness and, you know, blah, 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 all those. But I think it's very important to understand, particularly when it comes to these portals. And if you're trying to focus on building more prosperity and just moving yourself to a greater station in life, a higher position, whatever the case is. And mind you, I'm not the fucking richest motherfucker in the world. I'm not trying to preach on this is the way, how you blah blah blah. But I'm literally just looking at science and how this affects these things and how this responds, and also some of my personal experiences that did propel me upward. You know, sometimes very, very significantly. It's important to understand that your consciousness means something. It is something. It's a thing. It can be weighed, bro. It can be weighed. You have a soul. Most of you. So if you hone in your consciousness, your focus on that one thing, that little tiny subatomic particle that's connected to the idea of the objective that you want to achieve, or the lifestyle that you want to get to, that whatever the case is, you can affect it. You can change it. You can go through the portal. You can spiral up. And one thing I've learned, this kind of be the closing thought. I spend a lot of time talking to, and more importantly, listening to people. I mean, you know, directly, not just on YouTube and shit, but listening to people and talking to people who are a lot richer, like very wealthy and rich. And I don't just mean financially, but, you know, in many ways. They got their family situations together. They got, you know, legacy, blah, 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 blah. They're achieving the things they want. They got freedom of time, blah, blah, blah. One thing that they tend to all agree on is that winning makes winning easier, right? As you continue to win, you continue to win. As odd as that sounds. And it's because that momentum builds up, that spiral carries you up. Sometimes it just takes small victories to open that portal, open that door, that you can go through and take what's yours, what you deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Grown Man Talk. This is episode 3. We've been going at this about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. If you tuned in live, thank you so much for tuning in. Didn't quite interact with too many people. Gonna chop up and clip some of these things and spread it to certain places after it's reviewed. Florida Winter's album coming soon. Stay tuned. Make sure to check the links in my description and Instagram, etc. in my bio to stay tuned with that. Itinerary single is out now. Gonna be dropping another single shortly before the album releases. And I do have another album that's coming shortly after that, although I might push that one to the beginning of 2023. But that one's about, like 3 years old now. 2-3 years old now. So I got to go ahead and get that one out to y'all. That one has the artwork, all that stuff done. So that one won't take as much effort. But I do want to bring that one out soon. As I mentioned in the beginning, Grown Man Talk episode 1 will be up uncensored on Rumble. I'm also going to get it on BitChute, probably band video, stuff like that. And on that episode is where we talked quite plainly, and this is before or actually just after the huge ban or whatever the case, the cancellation. Talk mostly about Rashad Jamal's case and his particular situation. For those of you that follow the University of Cosmic Intelligence and that whole movement, and also Andrew Tate and the cancellation of Tate and all the bullshit that they were putting around as far as that goes. And I basically tore all that shit apart. It's probably the reason why that shit got flagged removed. But at any rate, make sure you stay tuned, follow me, and subscribe on Rumble, Getter, all these places, so you can catch that once the uncensored version is released. Also went in on some of this, this bullshit, all that shit. The whole 2020 campaign, etc. Or should I say 2030 campaign? But anyway, spend some time on that as well. So I'm gonna have the uncensored version of that on Rumble. Also talked about some other things that motherfuckers don't really want me to talk about, because I tend to get flagged or banned on certain accounts and stuff. So I guess I'm gonna have to start deploying some of this information through burners. These motherfuckers don't know who they're dealing with. But anyway, that episode is going to be out on those alternative platforms soon. I might see if I can possibly get it brought up back on YouTube, but it's not fully likely. There's a chance that, they'll throw a strike or some shit on there. It won't let me upload no raps or whatever. But at any rate, that episode is going to be, again, out on Rumble and these alternative platforms soon. Episode 2, Energy Harvesting, is on my channel. Feel free to tap my name, subscribe. Add that to your playlist or whatever the case to watch later. Check that out. It's very interesting breakdown of certain events that are going on in the music industry, especially as of late. I think if you're particularly interested in music or creating music, or just kind of working in the space, or even just kind of want to have an idea of what's going on as far as in hip hop and the whole thing, I broke down a lot of data in there. For those who know me, I don't fuck around. I don't talk out of my ass. I'm going to drop links for everything that I talked about in this episode, from the quantum physics shit all the way up to, everything I was talking about. Anything I said I was going to put a reference for, you best believe that shit's going to be in the description after I finish this recording in this stream. But with that said, stay tuned for episode 4. We might get into consciousness and superconscious. I don't know. That sounds like a fun idea. Maybe we'll do that next time. Maybe I'll get a spur of inspiration to do something else. And I kind of like streaming this on YouTube. It makes it a bit easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll probably stream it on here again as well for the next episode. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. For those that you tune in, this has been Grown Man Talk, episode 3. I'm Samurai Black. Peace to you.